Hey, howdy. What's up? The coffee got replaced with the cider because it's 7 p.m. Monday night. And hey, sorry I wasn't around on Sunday, but you might notice a little color in my face. I took a little vacation. And Chris says, aloha. Yeah, I was out of town. Oh, a nice time. It was great. Little Airbnb, beach, sun, sand. It was fantastic. How was everybody's Easter? Everybody have a good time? I hope so. I hope so. You guys have been talking amongst yourselves for a minute here. Let's see who we got in the house. We got Stephen. We got Thomas. They were the early ones. And Thomas says that, I think it's Thomas saying that he thought that a Proco-Rat sounds really, really close to an OCD. Only it has a bit more distortion on tap. Definitely has more distortion than an OCD, I would say. But a Rat is a great thing, you know. Rat is an underrated pedal, and maybe we forget about it because it's just it was so common back in the day. But they always surprise me when I plug it in and check it out. I like them on bass too, by the way. The UA Rat is a great thing on bass. If you have any of the UA plugins. You can use it in front of, like either just an SVT style amp or a Marshall amp, and then run an SVT in parallel or something like that, using a setup, maybe like a Helix or something. You can do the same thing. The Helix has a Rat in it, I think, too, doesn't it? Maybe. I don't know. Anyway, Rat, great sounding pedal. I love the tone knob on them is the brilliant part, because they can get so dark that you can make a Rat work with just about anything. By the way, I think that was Jeff Beck's thing back in the day. Didn't he just use Rats all the time, like in the 80s? He was big into Rats, into Marshalls, I think. I assume you guys can hear me okay. Seems like the sound is good this week and everything's cool. Now, let's see. Looking down. Let's see. Any ideas about the new Sir? Are you guys talking about the blue one? So the blue one is not new. It's interesting. It was a guitar that was like kind of a shop guitar. I think it was Peter Frampton's, actually. It's back there. It's right back there. And I used to use it on tour with Don Henley for just a couple of songs. And it doesn't have my favorite neck on it, actually. It has a very wide, flat kind of neck. So I might talk to them about the neck on it, but it's a great guitar. It's a really resonant guitar. And it's kind of a cool color, you know, that sort of Lake Placid blue situation. So anyway, I busted it out to use for a couple things over the last few days and stuff. And I ended up using it on that Fuzz demo. It is a great guitar. It's just the neck is very sort of flat and wide. It's not what you would think. It's not a typical kind of Strat neck. I would love to put a 21 fret neck on it, actually, and maybe get like their 60s C carve or something on it. Simon says, I was seriously living the dream this week. It's true. I had a great week. It was just, get up in the morning and walk. It's a great thing on the North Shore of Oahu to get a place. There's no development out there really, other than the Turtle Bay Hotel. They don't really allow a lot of development, I don't think, on the North Shore of Oahu, which is, the big sort of surf. I don't surf, but I love to go there. It's just very simple. It's completely different than the other side where, it's Waikiki Beach and Honolulu and all that. It's mostly just Airbnbs and stuff is the only way to go over there as far as places to stay. So you get an Airbnb. It's rather inexpensive as far as Hawaii goes, and the beaches are incredible. You can just walk to a lot of them. There's a great bike path, so you can kind of bike up and down the bike path and hang out. And you just kind of eat poke and, go to bed at 9:30 every night because you're spent from the whole day out in the sun and everything. You get up at 6 and walk down to the beach, and there's like nobody there, just with a cup of coffee and hang out. It's the greatest thing. Cheers. So that's what I did this week, and it was really nice. We had a great time. So somebody was asking, Stephen was asking about the blue guitar, if it's the one that John copied my Charvel neck. No, that's actually coming still. I'm waiting on that guitar. It's taking a little while. Sir's got that quality problem of being, somewhat back ordered all the time and stuff like that. So, and that goes for me too. I wait just like everybody, which is fine because they're doing well, and I'm happy about that. And I can't wait to get that guitar though. The red one will be something cool. That'll be really great. Okay. Let's see. Looking down. Jennifer's in the house. She says she's sick and she's not going to the Sunset Jam. Me either. I'm not going tonight. I'm chilling tonight. Gotta go to the grocery store, get stocked up from being away for a while, make some food, get some sleep. That's my plan tonight after this. Yeah. Who else is here? Let's see. You guys are all talking amongst yourselves, just looking for some more stuff, more questions, more everything. What's the fuzz that people, that Pete says is for people who don't like fuzz? That's a great question. The Starlight from Crazy Tube Circuits is usually the one I recommend for folks that aren't generally fuzz aficionados, as I say. The Starlight fuzz, it sounds kind of like a fat overdrive at low volumes and then becomes like more like distortion and then becomes fuzzy as you turn it up quite loud. But it is a great sounding fuzz pedal. Just a really terrific lead tone, run into a clean amp. I bet Gilmore would love it. It's just it's kind of like a Big Muff or something, but it's more, I don't want to say polite. It's just a more, Big Muff is a fuzz pedal all the time. This pedal kind of morphs into being a fuzz the more you pile on the gain. So check out the Starlight from Crazy Tube Circuits. I've turned a lot of people onto that pedal. They're one of my favorite pedal companies on earth. They really are. They make so much good stuff. Yeah. Let's see here. I think the cider is just because it's later in the day, says Thomas. I would say that's true. Yeah, I've got a Brooks Drew Ice. I just remembered I bought one of these and I had it in the fridge here at the studio, and I was like, oh, perfect. I'm not having coffee. I'm gonna have cider. I like the dry stuff. Okay. What else we got here, guys? Ask me something about gear. I haven't played a lot of guitar this week, so I'm just getting back into it. But I'm actually learning a whole bunch of material for an upcoming gig, so it was fun because I sat down and played tonight for about just like an hour, and then I'm really going to get back into it tomorrow. But it's all good. It's all good. What am I got coming up here? This is a Dark Sun pedal. I'm going to make a video for this. This is a new Seymour Duncan pedal. So that's going to be coming this week. Digital delay plus reverb. Looks like a useful pedal and probably sounds just great. That'll be the next one I do, I think. And lots more on deck, including more from Matthews. I think I might have showed you this pedal last time. I think this is the one. This is the gain box from Matthews that I'll be doing next. It's kind of clonny, but got a full 3-band EQ and a boost built in. And I liked it instantly when I plugged it in. So that's coming pretty quick, as well as a bunch of other stuff. Lewitt microphones. I'm going to make a video for those. And I'm also going to do really quick here, I'm going to do the Vox amps in the zone video. I want to get that going with the AC30, my AC15 hand wired, and my divided by 13 version, the RSA 31. Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe I'm just going to skip around to the end of the chat here and see if there's any stuff I got to get to. That looks like a question. That's from some of the names are hard to read. Paper STR33 Danny says, Pete, do you find it true that a guitar that doesn't get played for years doesn't sound as lively as an instrument that gets played often? I definitely think there's something with guitars, like playing them in, where I think it's like a proven thing with acoustic guitars for sure, where it's like, the more they vibrate, the wood and stuff, it kind of tends to dry out. And so I don't know how much of it is to do with just drying out over years and also or playing. But I haven't personally experienced, I've had guitars that I haven't played for years that I've then just set up at, my SG I literally haven't touched for 8 years or something like that, and I put strings on it and used it recently in that Angus video I did. And that guitar, I was like, whoa, this guitar sounds great. I gotta play this guitar more. It is at this point borderline vintage guitar. I guess it's 20 years old. I think it's a 99 or a 2000. So It's crazy to think that that's vintage, but it is, I guess. It's a pretty old guitar at this point, 20 years old. The Amplifier 12, what do I think? That's the bigger one, right? Kind of the longer black box from Amplifier. I assume it's great. I mean, I had pretty good success with the little guy. I really like the little one. To be honest, the small one, it does almost everything I need. I mean, when you can have two amp sounds, like a clean sound and a crunchy sound, and then a boost on either, you've got four ranges, 4 stages of gain there, basically. And how many do you need? But that thing looks pretty cool to me. But anyway, yeah, the bigger one, I'm sure is cool as well. I think they all use the same models and stuff like that. So you're basically, it comes down to functionality at that point. Patrick says, Pete, LA question. What is the biggest misconception about Los Angeles or the music community inside it? That's a great question. Somebody's in the top chat there. It's Chlorine. I'm just going to do that first, and then I'm going to do yours. Chlorine says, single coil pickups for rock-like tones like Yngwie. He's pretty hot. I would probably suggest that whatever they call the ML standard is probably the ones I would pick. Because I think that's probably the hottest single coil Sir has. You might want to check with them, but the thickest kind of, because he uses actually a stacked HS3. DiMarzio was his thing. Although I think he's got it doesn't have a signature Seymour Duncan, right? I think he does. Oh, I guess I missed another top chat question. How to not get sick of a song while learning it? That's a good question too. Okay, so check out the you might want to ask the Sir folks, but whatever is the ML standard would probably be the one that I would pick if I was like, got to do some Yngwie stuff. Personally, I like the ML Classics because they're a little more like 60s output. But the only thing about Yngwie is I don't think Sir has a stacked single coil, and specifically he uses those stacked. A DiMarzio HS3 is really it's a different sound, stacked single coils. It's its own thing, really. Doesn't sound really like a true single, but Yngwie used it. So get a DOD 250 and an HS3 and a Marshall Plexi or whatever, and you'll be in the ballpark of the certainly the gear that he used. That other top chat question: how to not get sick of a song while learning it? How long are you spending on it? It must be a complicated song if you're learning it. I don't know. I was just working on some songs tonight for a gig I got coming up, and it was great to pick up the guitar and just play again because it's been a minute. And I love, I don't know, it's like the hobbyist in me loves getting inside other people's phrasing and stuff. And it's the opposite of boring to me because I'm working on all the little intricate details, and that's just really fun for me. So now I've forgotten that other question I was gonna, the LA thing. Any misconceptions? Well, here's the biggest misconception about LA is that people come here and they maybe stay in Hollywood or something and they experience one scene. And then they go like, oh, I didn't really like it there. And it's like, actually, the reality is LA is tons of different scenes, not just musically, but also living. There's Pasadena, there's Santa Monica, there's the Valley, there's, Hollywood. Then there's like the beach cities like Hermosa and Manhattan, all that stuff. And then there's Orange County, which is like, it all just is one big patchwork and never stops. The city just keeps going. So there's tons of scenes and tons of different kinds of music going on. You're going to find, rock and jazz and, I'm sure, great blues. I remember there's great blues bars here. There's one down in Long Beach. Can't remember the name of it, but, there's all kinds of scenes here. There's the Baked Potato, there's the hi-hat in Highland Park for, like newer up and coming, like super indie bands and stuff like that. There's so many different scenes. So, Highland Park feels more these days like I would imagine like Brooklyn did, before it got super hipster, but when it was on the verge of getting super hipster. There's just so many different scenes. So there's something for everybody. So that's the biggest misconception is people come to LA and then they make a predetermined judgment about what it's like, what the music scene's like, what the city is like, by just maybe only seeing like 5% of it or something like that and staying in one little scene. So it's a little bit of everything going on, and that makes it really fun, I think. Somebody else is up in the top chat. He says, what's your favorite loop pedal? That's VA. Thanks for doing the top chat, you guys. I appreciate that. My favorite looper pedal. I use the Ditto. This one. I must confess I haven't used a ton of them. I did shop for them back when Chris Cornell was doing his songbook tours. He wanted a looper, and he couldn't just go to Guitar Center. He felt like and buy stuff. So he's like, "Would you mind going to look for a pedal for me? And I'll just give you the money for it or whatever, and you could buy me a couple." I'd really appreciate it because I don't really want to go do that. And can I ask you that favor? And I said, sure, of course. So I went to Guitar Center and tried everything they had. And I tried the Bosses, which were great. And I tried the Digitechs. What I ended up getting was the Jam Man ones back in the day, which were these blue Digitech ones. And there was different sizes of them and stuff and different models. But I ended up thinking that one was really cool. I remember you could store like up to 99 loops in them, and they had a little SD card slot or something like that. And I like that about it. I know Boss has come a long way with them since then too. I mean, this was back in 2011 or something, but I like those Jam Mans. Now for a simple one, this is great. This works really good for me. God, burping cider. Sorry. And I don't have one here, but my Line 6 Helix, I really like the looper in the Helix. Actually, it works great. I mean, I use that thing all the time. It's so controllable and easy to use. Mind you, Line 6 has been doing good loop things in their pedals for a long time, going way back to the DL4. A lot of people use that. That got a lot of people into looping, I think, and helped popularize it. So those are some that I like. I like the ones in my Line 6 units. I love this Ditto Simple. There's a smaller Ditto version too. I have a Boss as well, a little loop station or something it's called, like just a single size Boss pedal. That seemed to work well. Ditto seems a little simpler in its operation. But anyways, EverTune bridges is the next top chat question from Mr. Corey Moore. He says, are they worth it? I want to put one on my 89 Charvel, which is in pristine condition, but I would never sell it. It's a thing. I have one here. There's one upstairs in a guitar that my friend Lauren lent me to check out. They never go out of tune. They're just in tune, and it's kind of it's a cool thing to have around on. I want to put one on my 89 Charvel, you say. Well, it'd be more of the kind of thing like you might want to consider building a guitar from scratch that's not, like you say your 89 Charvel is in pristine condition, but you'll never sell it. Do you really want to make a mod like that on a guitar you've had that long, that then you might go, I wish I'd never done this to this guitar. It's not going to be a bad thing, I don't think. But if I was going to do an EverTune guitar personally, this is just my opinion, I would do it on maybe like a Warmoth body or something like that, and like order a kit. You can do it on your Charvel, but why don't you use all the parts from your Charvel and then get another body, put the bridge on it, and then just reassemble the guitar or something, and then see what you think, something along those lines. It's just such a big mod, So I think it's a commitment. No question this week, says Jeff Rupert. Just an idea. You and Andy Wood collaboration, please. You're both Sir guys to make it happen. I think everyone would dig it. I did do a song with Andy. You just reminded me of that. It's a number of years ago, but Andy put it out, I think. I thought it was for a benefit or something, but we played a song together. We recorded a song together that's out there somewhere. I wonder if Andy has it like on his iTunes or something like that. I don't know. So there is a song, and okay, so see if you can by next Sunday find that track that Andy and I did together. I can't even remember the name of it. He sent it to me. He worked it up, and then I played on top of it, I do believe. And we put it out. I thought it was a benefit for something. This is a lot of years ago. I can't even remember what it was exactly. So we did do that. But I love Andy. He's great. That dude can play circles around me and smoke me on guitar. He's a great guitar player. Okay, I'm just gonna start looking through the chat here. And see what we got. I'm just going to back up a little bit. I am a local Miami gigging guitarist, and I recently got a local sponsorship contract with Gibson. Any advice to progress as a musician? Well, these are I've talk about this all the time, I guess. To progress as a musician, I mean, the number one thing you can do is just play with other people. Get out and play as much as you possibly can in good situations. Always try and be the worst member of the band. Then you're always learning from other people, and you're always playing catch up and on your game. And If you can get in situations where you feel like you're always learning, that's great. That'll help you progress as a musician for sure. But always playing out, and that's great. You got something going with Gibson. I would say with Gibson, particularly to progress, a great sort of mantra, or ethos, or whatever code to live by when it comes to working with guitar companies and endorsements and stuff like that is scratch their back so they'll scratch yours. Do nice things for them. Be it social media posts or use their instrument a lot when you play. If you get a high profile gig, be using that instrument, and maybe have photos taken of you or video using the instrument on said gigs, and show them that you're using it and you appreciate their support. That's really important, I think these days. Discuss Dirty Shirley versus small box versus SL67. That's a pretty great question. The Dirty Shirley preamp is similar, I think, to a JCM 800 style preamp, pretty close to it. And then it's mated to a 6L6 power section. So it's going to be a little more, the power tubes aren't as big of a deal as a lot of people might make them out to be, but they still do sound different. You can imagine all other things equal, though. I mean, you could change something. I don't know what's exactly how a Dirty Shirley preamp is exactly compared to a small box preamp is plexi, and then with a gain stage, Dave's thing that he does in front for the BE kind of channel. And EL34 is a Dirty Shirley, so it's one channel. One great thing about Dirty Shirley is the clean sound is great. I love 6L6s for their clean thing. So a great way to use a Dirty Shirley is to turn the master on 10 and then just bring the preamp up to like 2 and play it clean. It's a beautiful sound. It's actually a really, really wonderful sounding amp for that, I think, for clean stuff. Small box, just because of the 34s, just disregarding what I just said about power tubes not making that much of a difference. But yeah, it's going to have a little more mids and a little more mid push, and it's going to be a little more true plexi kind of sound, I guess. SL67 is raw plexi. So, it's going to be somewhere between the gain of, I think a small box on the plexi channel is still maybe not as gainy as maybe you can as a plexi is when you get it working. Small box is kind of like more, it goes up to about AC/DC sound on the clean channel. It doesn't get into Van Halen sort of gain territory, which an SL67 will, or the small box will on the second channel, and even more beyond that. So anyways, I don't know. Hope that makes sense. SL67 has that nice post-phase inverter master on it. It's a simpler amp. There's no effects loop. Dirty Shirley similar, but has a master, but only one channel. Just depends what you want, My friend Frank Symes uses the Dirty Shirley. I know that, and he really likes it, and he plays like very Zeppelin-y kind of stuff, I would say if you did Zeppelin ZZ Top, that kind of stuff free, then you're in good shape with the Dirty Shirley. Small box, versatile, you'll get the plexi tones, and then also get the higher gain all the way up to Van Halen kind of modded territory and stuff, and it's got a loop in it. It's modern, 2 channels, that kind of amp. SL67, straight up plexi, anywhere from, Hendrix to AC/DC to Van Halen. Yeah. Okay. Looking down here, your profiles for Sir SL68 amp for sale, please. I don't really do the Kemper profile for sale thing. I just made a few for myself of my amp collection. I like my Kemper very much. It's up here, but I'm most, I'm focused on my Sir PT15. I can't turn this. I was going to show you. It's over there. But as far as selling amp anything goes, that's my focus right now. So as opposed to selling profiles of, the digital profiles of stuff. I'm not dissing a Kemper at all. I love my Kemper, and I've got videos out with it and stuff, and it's a really great tool. But yeah, I'm trying to sort of like, use it, and I also use the tube amp, and I love my, I like the knobs and the tubes and all that stuff. You guys know that. Steven Mercado says, hi, Pete, you rock, my man. He's in the top chat. Thank you, Steven. Looking for a reasonably priced preamp for home studio for vocals, drums, guitar. Any recommendations? DBX has some nice stuff out. They've got one. I've got one here called the is it the 560, and it's for 500 series. They also make a unit that's a rack mount unit and I think they're really cool. Works great for what it is. Another nice one is the Maris in a 500 series pre. I have that, the Maris 440, terrific sounding preamp, kind of API style. And I like the 610 from UA too for a different flavor. If you had like a one of the Maris pre's and then you had something like a 610, and then you got a tube pre warm tubey, you can drive it up, and then you got the cleaner kind of aggressive API thing. That could be a good combo. So much good stuff out there. My other one is the BAE. I have a 1073 style, dual 1073 BAE. I also have an API A2D. So I got 2 channels API, 2 channels of the Neve, 1 channel a tube pre in the 6176, and then I got the Maris and the DBX up in the 500 series rack. And those are my pre's. Yeah, look at maybe you could probably find a 610 used if you want a warm tubey kind of thing. Look for a 610 on the used market, maybe something. They make the Solo 610, and it's kind of like, I think they're only like $700 brand new. So used would probably be really reasonable. Or you can get them in the dual rack 2 610s or 6176, which is what I have, which has a 610 pre and an 1176 compressor in it, real versatile. Dave says, versatile or versatile? Some people give me shit about the way I say that word. Dave Trev is in the top chat. Thank you, sir. He says, for the new PT-15, what's the best way to connect to the left and right channels of the snake on stage? The snake on stage. Really what you're going to do is just take that 1/4 inch out and you're going to run it straight out to, probably an XLR snake. You're going to need a TRS to XLR male cable. Many snakes also have a 1/4 inch jack on it that's kind of either balanced or unbalanced. You could plug into that with a just TRS to TRS cable, go right in there, and on the other end it's going to terminate out of the mixing console, and you can do whatever you want with it. Just plug it into a line input on a mixer. It's all low impedance buffered line out. I run it into the line input here lately. I've been running it into the line input on my BAE pre, which is XLR, and I set the line, so it's line level +4, and that sounds great too. But you can run it just right into an interface or straight into a mixer. At the first gig I used it with, the guy literally had it was like a shitty, old Mackie mixer or something, and I go, here, handed him a TRS cable, and he just plugged it right into the board, into the line in, and then turned it up in the PA, and it sounded great. A small gig that I did with it. It was cool. What kind of drumsticks do you use? Says Moises Soto. If I was a drummer, I'd use a Regal Tip 5B with the nylon tips. That's what I'd use. That'd be no, I have no idea. I don't know anything about them. Okay. How would you recommend I hook it up, says Jesse. I don't know what the first part of the question was. Oh, wait. Here we go. Jesse says, a Mesa 5050 head. What's a 5050 head? That sounds like to me like a Mesa power amp, a 5050. Mesa 5050 head, Marshall 412. I got a Helix, love the stereo sound, so I bought a Wazacraft Dimension. How would you recommend I hook it up? That's a lot of info there. 412, it's a Marshall 412. It's got stereo input, so you can run the Mesa 5050 out into the, set the Marshall cab for stereo, 8 ohms aside, run the 8 ohm outs, Mesa 5050 into that. But you got a head. I don't understand. You have a head that's a Marshall. So how do you hook it up? I don't know. Complicated. Or not, but you want to run stereo. You've got a 50-50. I don't really understand, actually, your rig. Maybe you can write out the exact gear for me, and then I'll tell you how I would do it. I suspect I would do some form of 4-cable method, and maybe you want to do a load box to load down the Marshall head and run into the 50-50. Oh, there you are. You're in the top chat. I see you now. Jesse's in the top chat. He says, using a Helix into Mesa 5050, 90s rack. I think you mean a Mesa 5050 power amp. I remember those two rack space, dual 606 situation per side. Love the stereo sound being a Boss C1. Just got a Dimension Waza. How do I recommend placing it in the signal chain? The Boss Dimension. Okay, so I would probably, use it in the same way that you would use the Helix. Like, doesn't the Waza, it's where we get stereo ins, right? Or you can use it to split the stereo at the end of the chain. So just come out of the just without anything else plugged in, the Helix or anything like that. You're using the Helix into the 5050. Okay, sorry. Use the stereo out to the Helix, I guess, into the Dimension. Try that. See what that sounds like. Stereo out to the Helix, line left and right, line out, right into the inputs on the Waza. Take the line out to the Waza into your 5050 and see if you like the sound of that. There's other things that you could do, like using the loops on the Helix, but you're going to end up using all the effects loops or two of the effects loops for a stereo return. Maybe you might want to do that actually, but it's going to eat up two loops. You would end up taking one send on the Helix and using two returns from maybe loop 3 and 4 or something like that. And then you'd have to have those loops active, the send 3, and then the return 3 and 4 would be active. And then you come out of the main outs into the 50/50 of the Helix into the 50/50 power amp and out into the cabinet. And you'd have stereo sound. I hope that makes sense. Try a couple different things. David, Guitar Madman, is in the top chat, and he says, thanks, Pete, for all the advice, sir. Love Pete Thorn, too. Thank you. Oh. If the fellows out there that asked me for a while now to get copies of Guitar Nerd to CD Baby because he wanted one, I did it. I finally did it. He talked me into it. I know. It's silly that I didn't do it before, but basically they've been out of stock, and then I discovered I had another box of CDs around here. I was like, oh, I don't have to get more made. So anyways, it took me forever, but I got to the post office, finally got some Guitar Nerd CDs sent out to CD Baby. So they have fresh Guitar Nerd CDs in stock. And I can't remember the fellow's name now, but anyway, thanks for pushing me to go do that. I do appreciate it. I'm moving down through the chat. Pete, when are you going to break out the James Trisartelli, says Dave. I know I need to do that. It is a pretty cool guitar. I should do that soon. Can I tell the difference with stainless steel frets? Yes. I mean, are you talking about tone? I guess probably, because you can certainly tell. I think everybody can tell the difference in the feel and the longevity of, before you got to like do any fret dress, or they certainly they stay clean all the time. I never find I have to clean them with steel wool or any of that business. But the difference in tone. Okay, so what I always say, I have stainless steel frets on my signature sirs, so obviously I like them. What I do say is this: on a guitar, a vintage guitar, or on a guitar that you really love the tone of, or even Gibson style guitars, I sort of prefer nickel frets on those for some reason. And then on sirs and modern guitars that where I don't have any preconceived notion of the tone because it's not a vintage instrument or something like that, I'm totally cool with the stainless steel frets on those, and I love the feel of them. I love that I don't ever have to do anything to them. I hate when frets get pitted. Right now the frets on my Urine are getting worn out, and I gotta, I'm gonna do something about it. That drives me crazy. The thought of getting a fret dress, I hate it because dressing. I like tall frets, so dressing them down from where they started just bothers me. I'd rather get the whole guitar refretted. But anyway, so stainless steel I love for the longevity and stuff. But yes, I hear a little. Okay, so I don't know if I hear a tone difference to the amp, but I hear it acoustically. There's a slight little ping thing. Doesn't bother me in the slightest on a custom S or T style 25.5 scale bolt on neck guitar. It doesn't bother me at all. Don't notice it really on those guitars. Where I did notice it is when I refretted a Les Paul once with stainless steel, and I was just like, oh, it's just a little different now. Like, and there was this little ping on the notes. Like I said, I don't even know that it came through the amp. I never really paid attention to that, but I did notice acoustically there was this little difference, and that just formed a little opinion in my mind that was like, I think I want to just stick with nickel frets on Les Paul style guitars. Cheers, folks. 317 people online for the Monday night live stream. That's not too bad considering this isn't the time we usually do it, and it's late on the East Coast, sort of. Waiting for an alibi says, ordered Thornbucker Plus for my Strat. What should I expect? Hopefully no big mid hum. No, you're not going to get a big mid hum. This is going to be a beautiful sound, I think, that you're going to really enjoy. It's just really balanced. That's it. And it will balance well with single coils. And it'll try a parallel switch in one of the tone pots too. And have super versatility. Nathan's in the top chat. He says, hey, Pete, love Pete Thorn too. Thank you. Needing some noiseless Strat-like pickups. So I don't have a hell of a, so I'm a Sir guy, obviously. And the Sir guys, as we were covered, because they got the Sir silent single coil system in their guitars, which isn't a stacked pickup or anything like that. It's a standard single coil pickup, but they've got a separate little noiseless system in the guitar that is like a coil that helps cancel out the 60 cycle hum and stuff. So because of that, I play Sirs, all the time. A friend of mine was recently asking this same question, like similar advice for a Strat he had, and I asked John, like, what should he do? He's worried about his Strat, and he wants to. And John said, buy a Sir. Which he, smiley face like emoji or whatever, and it's true. He's got the answer, and it is the simple answer. In a guitar that's not a Sir, okay, some of the things that people seem to like. I know Tim Pierce likes I think the DiMarzio virtual vintage pickups he likes. Know that those are still a stacked single coil though. From what I understand, most of the pickups that are noiseless single coils, noiseless like the Fender ones, the DiMarzio ones, they're all basically a stacked type pickup. What they used to do back in the day with like the Seymour Duncan classic stacks and stuff like that, I think, was they were a stacked pickup where both the coils were about the same strength, I think, that were being stacked. And they were cool pickups, but they don't really sound like a true single coil. Same thing with the DiMarzio HS3 and all those. Now, the virtual vintage pickups are different in that, as I understand it, the one coil is like 5% of the other one, and then the other one's like 95%, but they still work as a humbucker. Because they're stack coil pickup, and they sound more like a single coil because of the offset thing, I guess, helps them still sound more like a true single coil. But it's still a stacked single coil, and evidently they don't sound 100% like a true single coil, from what I'm told. I haven't messed with them a lot, though, to tell you the truth. Tim Pierce seems to like them. So look at those DiMarzio, virtual vintage. And Fender's got those noiseless ones too, I think. Those are some options. They could be great for some people. Some people might try and go, this is all I ever wanted. It's quiet, sounds basically like a single coil. I don't know. Okay. Mike asks a question about endorsements with people like Sir. I think this is the question. Pete, would Sir work with me to get one of their guitars to try and cut some cost a bit? My advice to people that want to work closely with a manufacturer in an endorsement style, or get an artist deal or that kind of thing, is always the same, and it's that you have to have something to offer them. It's sort of what I said earlier. Like, there's got to be some level of it's a mutual relationship, where both people benefit. Now, my relationship with many companies, so going back to before I had YouTube and all that stuff, I'll tell you what I did. I'll give you my endorsement lowdown. Basically, I got a deal finally with Gibson around 90. It wasn't nothing I ever signed or anything either. This was a loose, just a loose, unspoken kind of agreement. Gibson got me that SG that you saw me using, the Angus thing, if you watched it recently. And this is going back around 98 or something. I'd been in a couple signed bands at that point, and I was starting to do some tours. And I got a tour with, my first one was with real, like, after three signed bands that I was in and put out records and did some touring and stuff like that. Then I started doing the sideman thing, maybe 97, 98. Adam Cohen was one of the first tours I did. He's Leonard Cohen's son. Great guy, great musician and producer in his own right. He actually produced his dad's last record. But anyway, I was doing that, and then I got in a band called Blinker the Star, and then I was playing with, some pop acts and doing some different stuff. And TV, doing Letterman and Leno and all that kind of stuff was a big thing back then. The Craig Kilborn show, the Rosie O'Donnell show. These were all things I did like in the late 90s. And anytime I would do TV, I would play a Gibson back then, and I would they gave me this SG to use, and I would use it for, this is for a couple of years, and I would use it all the time on those shows. And then I would always record on a videotape, on a VHS tape, all the television performances that I did with them. And I would take that tape into Gibson here in the Beverly Hills office in LA. And I would go, here's all the stuff I've done in the last 3 months with your guitar, and they would sit down, and the artist rep at the time, who's still a good friend of mine to this day, actually, he's with a different company now, but he would sit there and watch it, and he would just laugh and kind of go, man, you're really like, nobody does this, like where you show us what you did with it. And I would say, well, I want you to know that I appreciate it. I think I remember telling them, like, lend me the guitar and I will earn it from you. You'll see that I will use it and use it to good effect, and be supportive of your your efforts to support me, or whatever. Scratch your back and you scratch mine. That was the basic, business relationship. And they always appreciated that. And I approached everything like that when it came to endorsements ever since then. And, artist deals and things like that. You can't expect anything for just why, like for free, why would anybody want to do that? It costs them to make it if they've got a limited budget. So just going into it, know that there's got to be something that you can do for them. So that's either you're a solo artist with records out, you got a really active social media following where a lot of people are looking at you, you're I hate saying it, an influencer. Excuse me. But you're an influencer. Excuse me. You get what I'm saying. It's, but yeah, basically, people are listening to you for some reason about gear and stuff like that, and then there's going to be a reason for that company to want to be involved with you. And yeah, it helps if you're in a band that's got some notoriety, if you've got a solo album out, or if you're just an amazing guitar player, gets incredible tones, and you've got cool YouTube videos or something like that. All those things. What are you going to do for them? And that's what Sir and every other company out there is interested in, I think. That's my best advice I can give you. Just make sure you've got something that you can offer them, and if you do, then you're ready for endorsements, and you're ready to approach them and say, well, this is what I can do for you. I'd love your okay. And this is the most important thing that I'm not really mentioning, is that the most important thing is that you truly love the instrument. You don't just want free stuff. So with Sir, for example, with me, my relationship started with them with buying a guitar, secondhand, and getting it and loving it. I never talked to the company first. And this was well after I was doing all the TV and all that stuff, and records out and all that business. My first Sir was 2005. I'd been playing professionally at that point for 16 years or something. So, or no, not that long. Sorry. 9 years. Yeah. Since 95, 96, when I got my first deal. So anyway, point being, I loved the guitar. I bought it, sight unseen from across the country. I got it and I was using it all the time. And I was really crazy about the guitar. At that point, I went to them and said, hey, look, I bought one of your guitars. It's great. I love it. It's awesome. Is there a way we could work closer together, doing some stuff? And the rest is history. Alrighty. Moving down. Would love to know your thoughts on lead vocalists. Why do you think, who do you think are some of the best rock vocalists? Keep on rocking. Best guitar channel on YouTube. Thank you, Keith. That's very nice of you. Some of the best rock vocalists. Just off the top of my head, the greatest rock vocalists. I mean, it's going to be a lot of the usual suspects, but I'll give you one that's not, is Fogerty. I think Fogerty's an incredible rock vocalist. What an amazing voice. And he doesn't get enough credit, I don't think, for, how great, I don't know. He's just a killer singer. Who else is some of my favorite rock vocalists? Well, Cornell, obviously, who was just unbelievable. Ian Thornley's an amazing singer. Let's be honest. Like, as far as people out there, there's not too many people that can sing like that. And then he plays guitar and writes songs like that. Forget about it. But God, his singing is just, what control, over his voice. That blows my mind. I got really lucky, man. I mean, I was able to work with Melissa Etheridge. Is an unbelievable singer, incredible powerhouse rock and roll singer. What a voice. She's a force to be reckoned with. Rock and roll vocalists. Let's see. I'm not kind of drawing a blank at the moment, but well, Freddie, obviously, Paul Rogers, incredible singer. Glenn Hughes. I always loved Daltrey. Just the character of his voice more than a lot of the people I think are great rock singers weren't necessarily the most technically, amazing. Like I love John Lennon's voice. I love Bob Dylan's voice. I love Neil Young's voice because they've got so much character, and you don't even question who it is. It's like instantly they come on, and that's so. What's the mark of an incredible singer? Is it technique or is it like identifiable, and it pulls you in? I thought Hendrix was a great singer, and he was there's Jimmy up there. Thanks, man. He says he had such a unique voice, and I heard he was pretty shy about his voice actually initially. Mick Jagger, obviously. Mick Jagger's the greatest rock and roll frontman of all time, definitely. I mean, there's just no comparison. He's the greatest rock and roll frontman. So the whole package, harmonica, vocals, lyricist, dancing around all over the place. That guy's incredible. I love Roth's voice back in the day. Dave was dangerous. His voice was what a great rock and roll singer. I thought people don't really say that. Dave Lee Roth, great rock and roll singer. I don't know why they don't. It's like he had so much character and attitude and just swagger. And I saw a recent what was the show where he was on, like podcast or whatever, where he was on interviewing. They were talking about the difference between him and Sammy. And he said, "Hey man, who am I running with? I'm running with the devil, like I'm not writing about." His point was, so yes, basically it's just to sum it up, was he wasn't writing about like love songs and stuff like that. It was his lyrics were kind of more abstract and kind of like some were nonsensical and all that, but he just had this dangerous thing about him that was really cool. He wrote about a lot of cool shit, I thought, dirty movies and all that stuff. Mean Street. I mean, there's a lot of just really cool lyrics. Top Jimmy. What a cool song about a band that's unknown in LA. Top Jimmy and the Rhythm Pigs. That's a really neat thing to write about. I thought he just wrote about cool shit. And the Stones kind of did that. They would draw information. They would draw inspiration and information from interesting places, I thought, and wrote some really cool songs, lyrically, that were sort of unusual. Randy Wilcox is in the top chat. Thanks, buddy. He says, "Just want to say hey, and thanks for the heads up on Guitar Nerd. Just snagged one." Cool, man. Thank you for getting it. Going way back to 2011. Way back to 2011. It's true. Francisco says, "Yo, what's up, Pete? What's up, dude?" Q-Stick says, "It seems like when I get a refret, the guitar gets weird or in shock for a while. Any tips to get it back to normal?" It's really about the person doing the refret. It is kind of a weird thing getting a refret done. It's it changes the feel, and it's got it's a scary thing getting a refret done. I don't like getting those big things done on guitars, because. But you have to eventually, the guitar gets to the point where it's just, they're not playable sometimes, and that's not fun. It's fun to nerd out on gear, says Dub Shock Media. But you think people obsess too much to the detriment of making progress on the instrument? Yes. Yeah. I wrote a Premier Guitar article about that. One of my Tone Tips columns was about like, like don't get caught on that gear train. I've talked a lot about the Tom Morello approach of like one guitar, one amp, 5 pedals, set them where they sound good, use them, and I like that a lot. It doesn't fit in with my job because I'm these days, expected to, make videos for all kinds of products and stuff like that. And so that's part of my thing. But do I like the idea? My own pedal board doesn't change that much, occasionally when something comes across my desk or whatever and I love it, I'll put it on there. But I do like the idea of sticking with a rig. I mean, I've been using the PT100 now live as my main amplifier in the same form for, since 2013, I guess. Really, it's not really that much different since 2010 or 11 or something. So, you know, I like the idea of wringing every bit of thing that you can out of the gear that you have and really learning how to use it without selling and moving on to the next thing. Unless you just get it and play it for 6 months and just really don't bond with it. You know, then it's time to move on. Have I tried the new Dunlop Flow picks? I haven't actually. I don't think. Maybe I have, but I don't think so. You're saying you really like it. That's Stephen Douglas. I should try it. Wow, I'm way back in the chat. I'm gonna go down to the bottom. Oh, you guys are talking about rock singers. Steve Marriott, yeah, absolutely. Bruce Dickinson. I sort of thought of that, and then he went in one ear and out the other, and I didn't, or whatever. You know, I didn't mention it, but I like Bruce Dickinson a lot. Plant for sure. Jeff Tate. Yeah, he's cool. I like Queensryche for a minute back in the day. I like Queensryche. I always remember, is it Chris DeGarmo? He's a pilot, and he came to a Chris Cornell gig, and they're all friends, all those guys. So like Kim Thale hangs out with Chris DeGarmo. I thought that was cool, and he was very nice. I remember him being there, and Cornell was teasing me, going, "Come on, pick up the guitar. I know you know Queensryche songs. Pick up the guitar and play Silent Lucidity." And I was all embarrassed. I remember just being like, "No, leave me alone. Stop. I don't know Silent Lucidity." Not like didn't he write it? You know, but anyway, Chris DeGarmo, very nice guy. He was all clean cut and stuff because he was an airline pilot, I think, now or something, or maybe maybe he flies for a charter company or something. But I love the idea of all those Seattle guys hanging out together, no matter what band they were in. You know, it's kind of like being John Malkovich, where Malkovich is hanging out with Charlie Sheen, and they're like really good buddies. I always like that. The idea that Malkovich would be confiding in Charlie Sheen and just be like, "I don't know, Charlie. I just, you know, like." It was a brilliant thing. So the idea that the Queensryche guys, you know, they were their own thing, but come on, they were in the 80s. I guess they had big hits early 90s, didn't they? That Silent Lucidity and all that stuff, that was like 90, 91. Right on the verge of grunge. All right. Who else we got here? With questions. Yeah, Sean says Sammy sings about love, and I ain't talking about love was a quote from that interview. That's right. You know the interview I was talking about. Who's the guy that was interviewing? I forget his name. I should know that guy's name. He's very famous. But anyway, Joe Rogan or something. Is that the guy? Have I got that right? I hope I do. I don't know. Anyway, it was a kind of a cool interview, and Dave nailed it. I thought he's a little nonsensical when he right. I mean, when he talks, it's a little tough to make out what he's saying, but that was cool. Where he was like, "Yeah, well, what Sammy?" He wasn't dissing on Sammy or anything like that. He was just saying he writes about a different thing than I do, and I kind of go this way. Like he was sort of like, I'm the black sheep. I write about, you know, some dark shit and stuff, and he does. You know, he was a little more dangerous than Sammy with his a little more, like a lot more with his, you know, lyrical choices. Gidode says, he's up in the top chat. Thank you, sir. He says, any thoughts or opinions on a Naylor Superdrive 60? And Robin Zander, absolutely. Super cool singer. Underrated. Naylor Superdrive 60, I haven't used one a lot. I've played through one a little bit. My friend Greg Saran, a guy I've done a couple of tours with, he used to use that as one of his main amps. Really cool amp, like kind of almost like the other Soldano or something. You know, like the other SLO 100, different but cool, and it's great to have. You know, I know Tim Pierce really was a big fan of the Superdrive, a little smoother voice. Dave Friedman, by the way, big fan of the Superdrive 60 as well. He has a lot of respect for Naylor, yeah, I'd like one. My memory of it is that it's a slightly smoother sound. Yeah. Mike M says Miley Cyrus is actually an amazing singer. Her country sound and covers are great. You know, she blew me away when I played with her a couple months ago. She killed it, and the professionalism was really the confidence, number one, and also she's a rock star, is what it is. You know, these people, they all have the same thing in common, which is a strut out on stage and confident, grab the microphone and just go, all right, let's do this. And then they do it, and it just you know, and they just put the smackdown on the shit. And I don't know how else to describe it, but that's what she did. And I was like, whoa, you know? Yeah, it was cool. I remember walking off the stage after playing with her, and she leaned back to me and she goes, they loved it. Listen to them, like, because everybody was clapping and stuff, you know. And I go, I know, that was great. And I go, I had a feeling this was going to be really good, and I hoped it didn't come off the wrong way. Like, I didn't, like, I don't know, you know what I mean? Like, because she's Miley Cyrus. She started out with all the, you know, the wrecking ball stuff and everything like that, and it was like, but I just thought I feel like she's arrived kind of or something like that, you know, and she's just the fully realized version of herself now. She kind of like, there's something about her that throughout all the kind of like the crazy stuff that she kind of did to get where she is now, that was so kind of reckless and I don't give a shit and just punk rock, like, in a way or something. Like, I'm just going to like let it all, like a kid finding their way, like falling down and getting up again and stuff. And I really liked the confidence because she just kind of came out the other end, like, and she's a badass, like the real deal. Like, and it's like, oh, you know, I don't know. Like, I think a lot of people are shocked by her. You know, I don't know. People are so harsh these days, and mean to people and hard on people and stuff, you know. And she really knocked me out that night. I mean, with her just confidence and sheer ability. She sure can't sing. I mean, like, she sounds more like Dolly Parton than Dolly Parton, you know, when she wants to. And then she can do other stuff too, obviously. You know, she's really got skills for sure. Like, kind of a natural thing, you know. Yeah. Who else we got here? Who else we got here in the chat? Backing up a little bit, looking for questions. I'm going to go all the way to the end. Ricardo says, holy cow, Fair Warning still gives me the chills. The sound of a super hot band hitting on all cylinders. Definitely. By the way, Michael Anthony, greatest harmony singing bassist, not named Mike Mills. We love Mike. Back when Guitar Nerd came out, says 3DS Man. Back, 4 of my friends got that in their stocking that Christmas. That's awesome, man. Thank you. I'm honored. Thank you. Girl Gone Bad rocks. Yeah, Girl Gone Bad. Like, that's a cool name for a song, an idea. I don't know. It's just a cool, that song. Girl Gone Bad is amazing. You know what's amazing about that song? It goes through all those different, and I know Van Halen, like, he writes riffs and like kind of grooves and things, and then they put them all together into songs somehow. But how does that song even work? Like, so Girl Gone Bad, you know, whatever. And then the crazy kind of and Dave singing on top of that, and it's just a weird kind of syncopated crazy riff. You know the verse I'm talking about. Oh, I'm singing House of Pain. Oh God. I just made a Van Halen faux pas. That's awful. Okay. Girl Gone Bad. Oh God. I do know it. It's not that I don't know it. Sorry, I just got my songs mixed up for a minute there. That's so stupid. Girl Gone Bad is amazing. House of Pain is the song that I was thinking about when I was talking about that. I can't believe I screwed that up, but this is one of my favorite records of all time. It must be the cider. I'm going to blame it on the cider. But House of Pain. Now, House of Pain was around. There's demos, right, from 76 or 77 or something of them playing portions of House of Pain. So then they finally used those riffs and put it on a record all those years later. But what I was going to say about House of Pain is that I love the fact that in the guitar solo, it changes keys and does this totally different mood, and then does the breakdown down, you know, and the whole groove changes. And then they get to the end and go back to kind of the slinky first groove, but with a different progression, you know, and it goes out like that and rides out. It's just a weird song in a way. Girl Gone Bad is just on fire. There's a great, I think it's Montreal. There's some bootleg concert, 1984 concert where you can watch like pretty much the whole thing. And I think they play Girl Gone Bad in that. That's great. I always love that song. It's so cool. That's so cool. That whole record, man. 1984 was kind of when I really got into Van Halen. I saw the tour too. I remember I had third row floor and I was in front of Mike, and I waited out all night to buy tickets for that show. And I was in front of the PA. I remember that. It was all stacked up on the floor back then. They didn't they flew it, but they had some on the floor. And so I'm literally like, I don't know, not very far away from it was probably like me to the wall or something. And there's all this PA because I was on the end. I was like maybe, 5 seats from the end, but third row floor. And I remember them coming out and they started with Unchained. And I couldn't tell what song it was because it was so loud. And I remember feeling the air off the speakers. Just like when he, it's just like so loud and cool. But oh God, those days were fun. Fun. Whoever mentioned Steven Tyler. Steven Tyler, great rock singer, of course. This is a loose freewheeling discussion tonight, but I appreciate you guys being here and hanging out with me on a Monday night. Will Thornbuckers help brighten a really dark Les Paul? Let's get back to the gear, right? Will Thornbuckers help darken a really bright Les Paul, brighten a really dark Les Paul custom? If your Les Paul custom is really dark, to be honest, the first place that I would look is the pots and look and see, is it a, when was it made? If it's a standard USA Gibson line, it might have 300K pots in it. Which metric buttload of those things had the 300K pots in them. I think maybe they still do. Maybe they're 500K pots now. But anyway, they used to put those damn pots in those guitars. And a 300K pot with a humbucker is just, it's kind of muddy. It's a little on the muddy side. So look at the pots in the guitar. Try replacing those first before you go to the, this is the kits I used to get from like RS Electronics. And there's probably a bunch of other companies that do that now, but where it's like a pre-wired wiring harness that you can just pop in. Then all you got to do is solder the pickups and the output jack, and you just replace all the pots and stuff. That might be something I would try. That's a less expensive thing than getting new pickups. Having said that, my pickups will, depending on the pickups that are in your Les Paul custom, it just depends. If it's a 57 Classic, yes. I don't mind those pickups, by the way. 57 Classics are kind of cool, but they are on the dark side. Nice dark, but they are on the kind of on the dark side. So it just depends on the pickups that are in it. More than likely, like if you're like, man, my guitar is muddy, many times I find it's the pots. Darren says he's a Floyd fan and must say his voice is better than Rogers. Oh, you're talking about David Gilmour. But Roger's great too. Roger's one of those singers that's like Neil Young or whatever, where it's like he's not like well, Neil Young actually is kind of a technically cool singer. He sings in tune, and he's got like a really cool range and stuff. He's just got such a unique voice that I guess it's an acquired taste. I happen to love it. But anyway, Roger Waters has that kind of crazy voice, but his crazy kind of angst-filled voice is part of he's a little like Billy Corgan in a way. You know what I like about Billy Corgan is that he just had that kind of weird voice and he used it. It's like, what is that voice? I would do it right now, but I'm gonna fuck it up. I can kind of do a good Billy Corgan at times, but anyway, he's just got that weird, kind of whiny thing almost, but it's like, it's kind of cool because it's like, it's him right away. And it's like, it's kind of, it's just an angst-ridden kind of interesting voice. I like voices like that. I'm more into people with personality than I am into technically amazing, that works for me. How does your AC-15 sound with the tube screamer, says Mike? Into the normal channel, cool. My AC-15 is really picky on the top boost channel, and I think that's just a characteristic of top boost amplifiers in general. Because of the top boost circuit, it tends to sort of blow up whatever you put into it. I hope that makes sense. It kind of the top boost thing tends to, it's just like it's a picky thing, using an amplifier. It's kind of like bright caps in certain amps. It's you put a pedal into it and it just kind of accentuate all this stuff, Whereas the normal channel. No, I like the normal channel on my AC-15 with the bright switch on with most pedals. So it's a little bit, but it's just not as whatever the circuit is it doesn't tend to crap out or be as crazy with different types of overdrives and fuzzes and stuff like that on the normal channel. The normal channel on my AC30 I find is it's perfect with the bright switch on. So maybe that's what it is. It's just not overly glassy and bright, and so it tends to work with a lot of pedals. That's the that's the channel that I use on the AC15 most of the time, is the normal channel, both in the low gain input and on the high gain input, depending on whether I want to be crazy clean, like really clean, or, you know, if I don't mind a little bit of grit in the tone, then I'll just go into the standard, the higher gain input. And that's part of the magic, I think, is that slightly broken up, you know, slightly gritty tone. Yeah. Monday's a great night, says Jesse. I don't know. I mean, I like doing this on a Monday evening, but I think I'd prefer just sticking with Sundays. You guys let me know what you think about that, whether or not Sunday works, because I always just did it Sundays, you know, and I kind of like doing it on Sundays in the morning. I like getting up, coming here and having the coffee and stuff, but, you know, but I also like coming here and having this. This is pretty good. Brooks Dry Cider. Would it work to run, this is from Alexander, would it work to run the stereo line outs of the aux amp into some stereo mod delay reverb pedals and record direct from the stereo pedal? Yeah, you could do that. I want stereo cab sim with 2 aux amps. Yeah, I sort of don't quite understand what you mean, but I think you mean 2 amps into auxes, line out of each one going into a pedal. I think there's some way to do what you want to do. I don't see why not. But yes, you could do that. The reality is a lot of probably what you want to achieve, you could do in a DAW though. As far as like, once you start recording into a DAW and you realize like, okay, I could put some pedals in line right now, but I could also achieve a lot of this by just using plugins. You know, that post kind of stuff, which is how most stuff was done in the studio anyway. Back in the day, it was done using, you know, Lexicon reverbs or whatever, EMT or, Roland SD3000. It wasn't necessarily in line. It was like sends on the recording console, right? Well, now you can just do that stuff in the software, in the DAW, and you can get so many different sounds with reverbs and delays and all that stuff with just some simple plugins that tend to be less expensive than pedals, and then you're not patching them in line. You just, in other words, you just record the core guitar tone in and then treat it in the DAW. And in that way, you can leave it till the mix. There's all kinds of advantages to doing it that way. So 9 times out of 10, I'm not, unless it's a really specific effect. For example, I've got that rack chorus from Full Tone here, which is like a tri-chorus, you know, in my rack. If I really want that sound, because it's kind of a specific thing, I can use that. But there's plugins for tri-chorus too. So it just depends what you want to do. Let's see. Is EVH's secret sauce mostly from a flanger pedal? Well, no, wouldn't say so. It's Mike, but it is necessary for getting, you know, if you want to play Ain't Talking About Love or you want to play Unchained, you got to use it. The magic with Eddie and the way he used the flanger and the phaser is only punching it in occasionally, you know, except for like, say, the intro of Hear About It Later or something, which is all clean with flanger. Generally speaking, he turned the flanger on and off for little punctuations. And I always loved that because you never had time to get tired of the sound, and it would make a certain note very special. And then he'd turn it off again and play the rest of the riff. And then he'd turn it on and the flange would take over for the one note. And then he'd turn it off. Ain't Talking About Love is like that, right? Not many people play effects like that. Brilliant use of effects, you know? And he did that with echo, you know, on Fire. And you know that when the echo comes on, it's such a big part of the guitar sound to me. You know, I don't know that he punched it in and out for just the you know, the chorus of the song, but it sure sounds like it to me, like it was turned on only in the chorus. You know, it could be on, maybe he had 2, and I don't know, because he used to use 2, you know, so who knows what he was doing. But that's the part where you really hear the echo. And I think you would hear it more on the other parts of the song, popping out more if it was on at that level all the time. So I like to think that he just turned it on for the chorus. Anyway, blah blah Blah, blah. What else we got here? My favorite amp, the PT100. Well, PT15 these days, to tell you the truth. Your favorite amp? Favorite guitar player to play with? Oh, man. So many guitar players I love to play with. I love playing with Tim Pierce because I always learn things. Like you can just sit and listen to that guy phrase and take things away all the time. It's really fun to play with Phil X when we get to jam together. It's all smiles like all the time. So that's fun, Who else do I love playing guitar with? I don't know. Those are the ones that really just came to mind right now. But I guess I don't get to play with a lot of guitar players because I'm, you're the guitar player in the band or whatever. So it's like just you. But yeah, there's a couple right there. I'll tell you what, I loved backing up Ian Thornley a few years ago, and just letting him do his thing and playing rhythm guitar. That was cool. Super fun. Yeah. Good day from New Zealand, says Rob. How to break out of the boring intermediate guitar player stage. Routines, essential theory to learn. Pick up some of the videos from like Laurie Basilio or Mateus's video, that he does for Jam Track Centrals. Get some of those Jam Track Central videos and just start learning some of the phrasing of those folks. It's really special to just, to just do that, balance out the theory and all that business with some actually learning of, musical things from people that you admire and that turn you on. That's what I would say. Yeah. Another great rock singer, Doug Pinnick. Yeah, but I love Doug, he's great. But I would say that I love Ty too in that band. Once again, I like unique singers, and Ty's voice, his Lennon-y thing, those are some of my favorite songs, or his parts where he would come in. And it was really the balance of Ty Tabor and Doug Pinnick that I really love in King's X, and Jerry sings too, I guess, but he's singing backgrounds, and it was really their blend and the different voices together, for me. I guess they're working on a record. By the way, Ty, if you look at Ty's Instagram, if you're any King's X fans out there, he put up a post the other day where he's got his Elite Strat sitting there on the floor with his pedal board, the old Strat. And I'm like, oh, damn, that's cool. I love that he's using that guitar and doing some King's X stuff with it. So that was such a tone, A friend of mine the other day, I was at his place and he had bought a Lab, a Lab series, those L5 amps that Ty used to use. Which just such cool sound, and there's solid state from the 70s. So neat. Talk about a guy that used his gear to, Fender Elite Strat with weird active pickups into I don't know if he was a real big pedal guy, but he had the Lab amp, and then he had it's a MIDI verb or a quad reverb. I think a MIDI verb from Alesis. Shitty, probably 12-bit or 16-bit effect unit, and he used to use like a split stereo kind of thing for his solos. And what a tone! He had such a tone. He kind of reminds me of Tom Morello in a way with his, using the whatever gear he had to such great effect, and completely unique and not typical. So pretty cool. I watched the Tom Morello, and you're talking to a guy here that played Tom Morello songs on stage with the real singer for like a long time. And I didn't know until I just recently watched the Tom Morello Rig Rundown video that he only really uses the neck pickup. I never thought about that. The riffs in those songs the sound of them is so interesting because it's so locked with the bass guitar, because the way him and Tim play it together. And so it's almost like the guitar tone, you can't discern it from the bass tone, where one stops, the other begins, and like they both just meld together. So, I never just figured out, maybe that's an excuse, but I'd never figured out that he was really only using the damn neck pickup all the time. He says, yeah, just neck pickup. And then I'd use, if there's a bridge pickup, I use it as a kill switch. Like the volume's off on his bridge pickups all the time. I learned a lot from there's always more to learn, but it was just interesting watching it was a Premier Guitar Rig Rundown that he did recently. I don't know, that struck me. I should have figured that out years ago. I saw Van Halen in 1979. Dave was drinking a quart of whiskey, says Mike. It was probably iced tea in a Jack bottle. I don't know. I know he drank a lot. I mean, he did, but he was also in pretty primo shape back then and stuff. Dave strikes me as a guy that probably knew how to pace himself. He probably knew how to pace himself and what he could get away with. There was those occasional gigs like the USFES festival. I forgot the fucking words and all that, but I think he was in pretty good shape and probably knew how to maintain pretty well. What else we got here? Wow, I must be back in the chat because Fernando says, another way of supporting Pete is just liking the stream. There's only 40 likes, but now there's 112. So I appreciate that, guys. That means I'm pretty far behind. Let's see. Chris says Thornbucker's brightened up a buddy's PRS. He's, I think, referencing that other fellow was asking if they'll brighten up a dark Les Paul. Mad Hatters has great pot setups. So back to the pots for Les Pauls and stuff. Mad Hatter, I don't know that company. I used to get them from RS, but yeah, check out Mad Hatter too. Chuck says he saw Quiet Riot right after they released Mental Health in a small convention center. They had their stadium set up, and I was in the front row. The music was actually turning flat in my ears. Probably too loud. Too damn loud. Okay. Billy Corgan sounds like Big Bird, says Count Spatula, but awesome. I don't know, man. That whole there's something about his. I know it's an acquired taste. I mean, I totally agree, but I like that he used the instrument that he had at the end of the day and made, sold millions and millions of records doing it. A lot of confidence there, At the end of the day, we all have a voice, and if you just open your mouth and use it, it's with confidence is the main thing. I think, obviously, if you're just confident but you suck, then that's not going to be good. But he made it work. He's a really good guitar player, really good musician in general. When you have to learn songs, this looks like a good question. This is from Corey. When you have to learn songs that are heavy effect laden, how do you go about breaking it down when it's a unique effect that is doing a lot of the lead work? Tom Morello is an example. Well, some of his stuff that he does now is kind of crazy. I would watch, if you're specifically referencing Morello, look at that recent Premier Guitar rig rundown, because he goes over a lot of the tones, I think, and how he uses the different pedals and what songs he uses them for. If it's a specific weird sound, you might learn what you need to know from that. How do you go about breaking it down? It's hard, man. You got to just figure it out. Sometimes, the magic is in you figuring it out and finding your own way to do it. And it's not necessarily the way they did it. His 16th note delay thing that he does on, or maybe it's 32nd notes, but on the intro of Cochise, and I think it's also how he did Gasoline. 16th notes. It's so you attack a note and then have one echo delay. And I used to be like, is that timed tremolo? I didn't know I thought it was square wave tremolo. Maybe it was timed, they were playing to a click and all this hard way to do all that shit. When all you really need to do is just set up a delay that's pretty close to a 16th note of the tempo that the drummer's playing at. And then you just hit a note and it goes dut, 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 with the second dut being a delay repeat. I did it some other way back when I was playing with Chris, and it was never quite right. And now I know how to do it, and sucks that we can't do that again, because I know how to do that sound now. I think Chris messed with me once about it. I was like, how did he do that thing in Gasoline? I'm trying to figure it out, and he goes, oh, he's just really good. I was like, you fucker. That's not what I want. I was like, all right, fine, I'll figure it out on my own. Anyway, yeah, but always messing around, that guy. Neil Young, Iconoclast. Yeah, good stuff. Richie Kotzen, great singer. Richie Kotzen. He's like Ian, because he's so good at singing, and yet his guitar playing is what gets all the attention, because they're that good on guitar that it overshadows the fact maybe a little bit that they're amazing singers. Richie's a great. It's similar to Ian, that ability to, big range, and he can grit it up when he wants to. It's so cool. Oxend is up in the, I like Oxend. That's good. Is that like Oxsend or up in the top chat? Happy Monday, Pete. What is your personal take on sobriety and being successful in music, or using inebriation for inspiration? That's a deep, incredible question. We've lost so many people to abuse, obviously. And yet I remember a friend of mine who was definitely lived on the edge, was Kevin Gilbert. And he once said to me, try and name me the classic rock album that wasn't made where everybody was, messed up on something. And I was like, oh, that's not true. And I, at that point, which was about 1995, I had a hard time coming up with anything, where there wasn't some sort of influence of, it doesn't mean I condone it. It just means that it's kind of fact. Like, I kept naming records. He'd be like, nope, acid. Nope. They were all smoking weed then. Nope. Amphetamines. Nope. And I was like, oh, fuck, really? Because it's kind of a depressing thought in a way. But there's been lots of great music made by folks that are sober. I'll tell you this, that somebody asked me a question recently about, don't I think that it's difficult? Oh, it was on YouTube, I think. Somebody left a YouTube comment saying, don't you think it's hard to get gigs if you're sober? Like a touring gig, because then, rock stars aren't going to want to play with you because you won't be fun. They want to hire people that, and I go, dude, it's not like 1978 anymore or whatever. It's the sober community in the LA is a huge community. And certainly I know of people that have gigs because they're sober, because artists want to take folks out on the road that are like-minded and not going to get them into trouble if they're, if it's sober people, they don't like temptation, I don't think, and they don't like to, they like to surround themselves with supportive people that are like-minded. So I think it can add to your success in music, so that's personally my opinion, about it. I do know people that go on the road with bands, and specifically it was a part of the reason that they were hired. Not the only reason. They had to be a talented musician as well, but part of the reason they were hired was because they're sober as well. So if it was 1977 or something like that, or even in the 90s, it might not be the case, but nowadays it's certainly the case because people have wised up, I think. Did I ever play with Lane Staley or Alice in Chains guys? No, I've met Jerry numerous times. I'd seen him around quite a bit actually in LA, but I've never played with any of those guys. No, nope. That was a question from Mike M. Top boost is sketchy with a delay or reverb sometimes, says Chris. Yeah, generally effects in general into top boost amps can just be a little finicky. So Metalhead Hippie's in the top chat. He says, yo, thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Let's see here. Colton says, I work in Reading, Pennsylvania. I got curious if you guys ever played there when you were with Chris. Great clips of the whole concert on YouTube. I think I remember playing that gig. It's tough because they all blend together a little bit. I gotta go look for that now. I seem to remember the venue though. I think it was kind of like a club, right? That we played in Reading. Maybe. I think I remember that night. God, so much fun we had on doing those gigs. The clubs were the most fun. I think. Looking for another question here. Looking. Tim and Phil are a good contrast in personality and styles, referencing my favorite guitar players as of late that I've played with. I love both of them. Tremendous players. Agreed. Yeah. I still have a MIDI verb, says 3DS man. Yeah, they were, Ty, look up Ty's rig. He used the MIDI verb for like his lead sound was a MIDI verb. He'd split in stereo, get that cool wide sound, and that's what he used, I do believe. I don't know how he did it. Maybe he used two labs and put it in front. That's how I would assume. Tim Corder is in the top chat. Thank you, sir. Happened to be in San Francisco this week. Any guitar related suggestions to see here? No, but go to Swan's Oyster Depot and have some crab cocktail. That's my San Francisco favorite thing. Have a glass of white wine and a crab cocktail and just enjoy. Good stuff. Swan's Oyster Depot. Enjoy. There's a great, down on the, in the Embarcadero, there's a Peruvian restaurant. You'll find it down there. Look up Peruvian food in the Embarcadero and have the ceviche. It's fantastic. What else we got here? What else we got? Sorry, lull in the video. My favorite amp in the 90s is a Crate Stealth designed by Lee Jackson. I remember those. That's from Arthur. What's my opinion of a wet dry rig? Great. I loved it. Depends on how you achieve the wet dry, and it also depends on what you're doing. If you're the only guitar player in a trio, it tends to be just amazing. If you're in a great big band with keyboards and stuff, a little bit unnecessary, too much stuff. That's my personal experience because I used to have one. I used to do a wet dry wet rig with 2 satellite kind of 112. For a while I did 3 412s, but that was just crazy. And then I went to 2 112s with the center 412. And I had Dave Friedman build me a little mixer that took the tap off, center tap, and sent it through to the main cabinet and all that, and then sent out to my effects, and then had it split into the 112s, which I'd run. I'd run the effects 100% wet, but then the mixer allowed me to mix in some dry into the cabs. Really cool. You needed 3 microphones, and there's a lot of potential for sound guys to screw it up. There's a lot of bleed coming in those mics on the stage and stuff. And it was just like, you know what? Like, I get it if I was, Steve Stevens did a great effect, Eddie Van Halen, awesome. But I don't know. For me, too much stuff and too much potential for chaos. Now, a really interesting way to run a wet dry rig. Watch the Scott Henderson, Tim and Pete show for the way he does it. I love the way he does it because there's something so damn organic about it and cool. What he does is he uses a Fender combo amp, just like a Hot Rod Deluxe or something. And he's got a little line box that takes a tap off of his, speaker out on the head, goes into the line box, passes through the cabinet. So there's nothing in between the head and the cabinet. Line goes into his Boss SE50 or whatever, SE70, half rack effect thing he's used forever. And I believe it's set 100% wet. And he runs the output of that into a Fender combo right into the front end. And then he turns that up. And then he rolls the treble way down on the amp. And I was like, wait a minute, that's so lo-fi. You're just running through the preamp of another Fender amp with your output. And he's like, this works. And then I can EQ it on the amp. And it's just delay and verb in there. So it's not actually stereo either. He's just got the one, it's like a mono wet. It's just wet dry, I guess, or dry wet. And I'll be damned if it doesn't sound great, and just really, really cool. So I kind of like that. A neat way to do it. And you don't have to have the amp up that loud to be able to hear the delay and the verb at the right. You're mixing it by just turning up the volume on the little Fender combo. And I don't know. It's just lo-fi and kind of unique and cool because guitar is lo-fi. It shouldn't be maybe too hi-fi. There's something with a lot of personality that I liked about it. And I've never done it like that, but in retrospect, it's like, it's brilliant. These are the things that you learn from somebody like Scott, It's really so smart. Travis is in the top chat. Thanks, Travis. He says, thank you for your videos on how to use an overdrive pedal. Really helped me to learn how to get the most from my pedals and amp. That video is so funny. It's my biggest video. The how to use and how not to use overdrives has 1.1+ million views now. And it's so funny because I love some of the comments like, don't tell me how to live my life. There's no right or wrong way to do it. I was just like, it's my opinion how the right and wrong way to do it is. I always hated the sound of an overdrive, for example, with the level turned down below the like when you're bypassing the pedal, and then you hit the pedal and the level drops. I hate that. It's like now it's like, whoa, I just turned the volume down on my guitar to 6 and I added some distortion to the sound. I don't know. It's just now, if you add some distortion to sound and turn your volume down on your guitar on 6, that's different. But make sure the level of the pedal is kicking the front end of the amp. I don't want to use the pedal as an attenuator into the front of the amp because I like the output of my pickups and stuff the way they are, and then I can control it from the guitar. But I never liked it when people run the volumes really low on their pedals. So that was my point with the tube screamers. In order to get a unity gain kind of thing going, you need to turn the level up because they don't have a lot of level really. So you got to crank that level up. Now, anywhere past like 2, 3, 4 o'clock on the level knob. Okay, now you're boosting, and it's kicking the front end of the amp a bit and doing a cool thing. And you're going to boost the amp into a bit of drive, and then you're going to add a little bit of the fake overdrive on the pedal, the IC or whatever, driven silicon, driven transistor to overdrive, and you're blending it then with the boost going into the amp. And that to me is what makes a Tube Screamer sound good. But some people said, well, the sound that you got when you had it set the way you don't like it is what I like. And it's like, I can't argue with that. If that's what people like, it's art. Whatever sounds good to you. Might sound not good to me, but that doesn't matter. My thoughts on John Sykes. Love John Sykes. Aggressive European guitar player extraordinaire. Underrated. Wish he'd done more. I wish that guy had done more. Honestly, it's like he's incredible. Talk about a guy that can sing and play too, right? He's like another Richie, where it's just like his people don't even talk about his singing. He's an incredible singer. Imagine him sing. I bet you he could sing the shit out of all that Whitesnake stuff now. Whereas maybe David Coverdale's getting I don't know, a little long in the tooth. Did I say that? I don't know. Did I? Yeah, I just think Sykes was such a huge part of all that set. I love his guitar playing. I mean, him on what's the solo he does on the Rockin' Rio in '84 or something? And they're playing a bunch of songs from the Crying in the Rain and stuff like that. And he does that he does a long guitar solo. If you can find it on YouTube, it's cool. He's just on fire, he's like the quintessential, it's proto shred. It's not shred, but it's shreddy enough for me. I don't want any more shred than that, to be honest, like in my guitar playing, it's just cool, fast, fiery, melodic, vibrato, like a lot of soul in his guitar playing, I think. So yeah. No guitar player ever left me craving more solo than Kim Mitchell did. I wonder what solo it was on. Kim's a great guitar player too. Unique guitar player. Super cool. Have I ever jammed with Rusty from McCartney's band? Yes, I have actually. I've known Rusty since '92, I think. Rusty's a great guy, and talk about a guy that can shred on guitar. He's actually he's got crazy chops and abilities on guitar for sure. Rusty actually played, I toured with a guy named Draco Rosa, and Rusty, that was his gig for a long, long time. He made records with Draco, and played on a lot of his, kind of seminal, really important songs. And so I learned a lot of Rusty's parts and tones and stuff like that to go out and play on tour. So yeah, I go way back with Rusty. Is there a date to release your new PT-15? Well, we're still on track for June. So PT-15 should be, shipping on target. We said, June, early summer. That was the goal. And as far as I know, everything's on track. So, and we're getting close. So that would mean that actually I've been out of the loop for about a week because I was away, but I got to call them just see where they're at and stuff like that. I don't want to talk out of turn, but as far as I know, everything's on time. Oxsend is in the top chat again. Thank you, sir. He says, what's your opinion on stereo chorus? Is it anything more than a wet dry channel? As I understand it, like the way that the first CE1s and stuff, one side was modulated, right? And the other side was dry. And then it had a chorusing effect because one side was going up and down and the other side wasn't. Later on, that wasn't the case. It's like you were actually blend, both sides are like in later Boss pedals, even, everything's modulated. It's not a dry. If you just listen to one side, it's not just that one side dry and the other side modulated. So it depends on the unit, I think, is the point. Which, if you're talking about CE1, yes, it is actually just a wet and dry channel. That's the classic kind of CE1 way of chorusing. Interesting question. Chris Schultz says, have I had a bad experience with an artist and now I can't enjoy their music? I've been pretty lucky like that. I wouldn't say so. Yeah, I guess not. It's part of why I like to keep relationships with people really good, because I'm terrified of that, actually. Like, when you get to know some of these people, maybe, and then you don't want to have a falling out because that would be an awful thing for your childhood. Like if you grew up listening to somebody and then like maybe you get the opportunity or the good fortune to meet them later and maybe you even become friendly with them or whatever. You don't want that to go bad because then it's like, no, like I still want to remember you, like, you know, the way I did when I was growing up. You were important to me, and I want to have that be a screwed up thing. So I don't like that idea. You know, the idea of, I've got a friend named Michael Martinson that told me a story about meeting Yngwie once, and he was really mean to him. I've met Yngwie a couple times. He was really nice to me. And I guess it could be a thing where, you know, you approach people in the wrong situation when they're just trying to eat their dinner or something, and then you say something to them. And they're like, can you just leave me alone? Like, because I'm eating or whatever. So he grew up he's Swedish, and he grew up a huge Yngwie fan. And he said he met him at the Rainbow one night in LA. And it was not too long after he'd first gotten to LA. So, you know, you're a Swedish guitar player. You're like, oh, LA, you know, and you fly to LA, get there. And he says he sees him at the bar in the Rainbow, and he's sitting there having a drink or whatever. And he said, oh my God, you know, I'd practiced his music and learned his songs, you know, and worked so hard, you know, on all this music. And there he is, he's sitting right there. He's like his God, you know? So he says, I had to have a shot at the bar or whatever. And then I got up the you know, courage to go over and say something. And I went over to Mr. Malmsteen, you know, I'm such a big fan. I've studied all your music for so many years, you know, and I just had to come say hello to you because I'm such a big fan or whatever. And Malmsteen turns around and looks at him and goes, fuck off. And Michael says, I turned around and walked back to the bar. I took another shot and I walked out of that bar, and I never listened to his shitty music ever again. But which is a funny story in its own right. But I hate that idea, you know, that Michael got his, you know, that's awful, you know, that he meant a lot to him. But you never know. Maybe he was, you know, maybe he was in a bad mood. Maybe he was having a fight with his girlfriend at the bar. Maybe he was, you know, just not in a great state of mind that night. Maybe he was thinking about somebody. He didn't want to be disturbed, you know. I don't know. Who knows, you know? So it can happen. Sometimes it's best just to, you know, let those things go. So I remember one night in Chile, we just arrived in Chile, the whole Chris Cornell band, and we got off the plane, went straight to the airport, and the promoter sort of casually on the way said, oh yeah, we got a show going on tonight, and maybe you guys want to go. And we're like, what is it? And it was Yngwie in this theater in Santiago. I was like, you guys want to go? I'd love to go see that. Are you kidding? Like, when is it? And he's like, well, it's like 6 p.m. We'd probably have to like drop the bags and go, you know, and if you want to go, I can get you in or whatever. And we said, let's go, you know, let's do it. And so we dropped the bags, all jet lagged and everything right off the plane, no showers. And we head to this beautiful theater, as I remember, old theater in Santiago. And we got in there and then saw the show. And then afterwards, you know, we went upstairs and we were, you know, by the promoter, we were taken up to the dressing room, said, you can meet him if you want to, you know, he's going to come up in 10 minutes or whatever. And I was like, because of my experiences in the past, I just thought, I don't know if this is such a good idea. Like, you know, and I'm just sensitive about stuff like that. And Yogi, you know, my buddy, guitar partner in crime, was like, oh, come on, you know, it's a big deal. And I was like, all right. So we stayed there and he came walking up, and sure enough, he had a look on his face like, who the hell are these guys? You know, and the promoter, you know, right away said, this is Chris Cornell's band. You know, they came down to see you tonight. And, you know, they go, oh, Chris Cornell, fantastic singer. You know, it's awesome. Welcome. Thank you for coming or whatever, you know. And then he kind of sat down, and that was kind of it. And he sat down and he had dinner after he had his food there. And you know, I remember Yogi being there. I said, we should probably go. Like, let's go. Let's get out of here. That was good. You know, that's enough. Leave the guy alone. He just played a show for a couple of hours. He probably wants to eat his dinner. So anyway, that's how I approach stuff like that. All right. Well, it's 8:38. I'm getting tired. I think I'm jet lagged from going to bed so early for the last few days, but I'm going to hang for another 20 minutes or so, and then I'll get out of here. And we'll do the same time, same place. Different time, same place next week, Sunday, instead of Monday. Preston says you used the Wet Dry Wet with Melissa Etheridge. Yes, that's right. I did. And it was great with Melissa Etheridge, to tell you the truth. And John Shanks was a big part of the way I got the Melissa Etheridge gig. He really pulled for me. He says, you should get this guy because he does all the tones and everything. And John was has been a longtime collaborator of Melissa Etheridge and produced many of her records, including her latest one, I do believe. And he's a great guitar player that really appreciates good guitar tone, and he's a total gear nerd. So he knew that I was into rigs and pedals, and he's like, this guy's going to be able to reproduce my parts that I played on the record properly, I think was his thinking. So I did use the wet, dry, wet rig with Melissa, but then I ended up slimming it down. About 2 years into the touring, I ended up going to just my current kind of setup, which is 2 amps with 2 cabs and a pedal board and with the effects in the loops instead of doing the wet, dry, wet thing. Yep. Let's see here. Cohen says he's in Sauble Beach, Ontario. I hope I'm saying it. Sauble Beach? I don't know that place. Ontario, Canada. I love your YouTube channel and videos. My favorite band is Rush. What's up, man? Nice to meet you. What's up, homie? I love Rush, too. There was a posting the other day. Oh, I guess it was somebody put up a post on Twitter about Grace Under Pressure and saying what a great underrated record it is. I guess it's like, maybe it's 25 years old now or something, or I don't know what it was, but it was like an anniversary of Grace Under Pressure. Well, does that make sense? 94, 2004. No, it would be 35 years, wouldn't it? Anyway, came out 84, I think. Anyway, Grace Under Pressure. And it made me want to go back and listen to it again because I don't really remember the songs that well. I mean, I remember like Red Sector A and but there's some like more like the album cuts on there that I don't remember that well. So I want to go back and listen to that record. A lot of people were like, "Oh, this record kind of got glossed over at the time a little bit, but it's a classic. It's amazing. I want to check it out. Maybe the first one that they didn't do with oh God, why can't I remember anything anymore? The producer Terry, what's his name? Somebody get the Rush producer that did everything. Terry Brown, right? I think the first one, Grace Under Pressure, that they didn't do with Terry Brown, and I can't remember who produced it. Was it Peter Collins? Maybe that did Grace Under Pressure. I think maybe he definitely did the next one, but I'm not 100%. I don't think it was Peter Collins. Somebody tell me who produced Grace Under Pressure. Somebody Google for me, or maybe you just know. Yeah. Oh. Hector says, what do I mean by take the tap off? Sorry, I should explain that. So when you have an amplifier, we were talking about wet, dry, wet rigs. And when you're talking about how to get the signal to your effects, what I mean by that is generally speaking, you'll take a box. I have one here somewhere. I could look for a minute to see if there's one in here. No, it's going to be two. You know what? I might have moved them out of here. Let's see. Thought maybe I had a Sirline box here. I think I've put them in a different bin. They're not in this room anymore. But anyway, basically what you do is you take the speaker out of an amplifier and you plug it into a box that then has a through jack that'll pass the signal through to your speaker cabinet, but it'll also take a line level, what we call a tap, off of the signal. So like a +4 signal, a little bit of tap off of that speaker level signal, and you can run that out then into like an effects unit and maybe then into a power amp and another set of cabinets. So it just means that you're taking a little piece of the signal, and taking a little tap of the signal. It doesn't mess with the signal at all or anything. You just get a little line level out and take it off the speaker output of the amp and run that out to the effects, and that's generally how you do wet, dry, wet stuff. Yeah. 3DS Man says he still has an original Rockman, as not an X100, the original one. I had one back in the day too. They were cool, man. I loved my Rockman. It was fun to be able to use that thing. Just a headphone. It was a great little headphone practice. I used to use it all the time. Steve Morse used to run that way: mono dry, mono wet. Yeah, I think it can be a good thing. The reason Scott really likes it is he believes that the effects in Scott Henderson I'm talking about, the effects in the same cabinet that your dry signal is in, he thinks it messes with the interaction with the guitar. The feedback and the direct feeling of the guitar amp speaker, with maybe a pedal in front or something, but no reverb or delay or anything like that. I could see that. For sure. I think there's something to that. Mind you, a lot of people have moved away from it and gone, like Lukather or whatever. He does the exact same thing now that I do with there's some pedal effects that are basically running in the loops of his amps. He uses 2 heads and 2 cabs. It just depends, what you're into, I guess, it just seemed to be a lot of stuff, and you're also relying on the sound person to mix that's the thing that always pissed me off, was that they didn't understand many times that just set the level, like use 2 of the same mics, 257s or whatever, and put them at the exact same level. I'm mixing over here, because you're not hearing a bunch of, they'll look at the meters a lot on the console, and they'll see that the dry one is loud and nice and healthy, and the other one's just bouncing up and down a little bit. And they're like, oh, I'm supposed to turn that up. That was always the problem that I had, especially when you're doing TV. It was like wet, dry, wet with TV, and a stereo wet, dry, wet rig was a nightmare trying to get, because you can't see the guy in the booth, and you'd be like explaining, okay, I've got 3 mics. They're all supposed to be at the same level. And if you don't see anything going into those 2 other cabs, don't worry about it. It's okay. And many times they'd boost the level of those up. So now you got your effects way too loud in the mix. That'd be the problem. And I got to the point where I was like, if I was doing my own gig where I was the only guitar player, if you're like Eddie Van Halen or something, and you can have a sound guy that is yours, and it's a 3-piece band where the guitar is a huge component, not being blended with keyboards or tracks or any of that other stuff, then you can get away with it and it makes sense, and it's great, but beyond that, it's just like, just put the effects in the effects loop and let's get the job done, Macon Tavares is up in the top chat. Thank you, sir. He says, Pete, loved your PT15 and line 6 Helix effects. Wish you videos. Wish you do another video with the PT15 and better audio quality with more sound samples with the amp. Better audio quality? What's wrong with the other one? It's pretty good audio quality, I think, isn't it? I am going to do more soon, and getting into that pretty quick here now that I just wanted to go on my little vacation. And now that I'm back, I'll actually do I've had some requests to do like every channel and kind of all the way across the gain range. So I really want to do that. And in addition, I want to mic the cabinet. I think you guys have seen the cabinet. While we're here, let me just show you the cab. Because if you haven't seen it, we have some office supplies on top of it right now. So we're going to move those. I happen to have it right here. And it's such a cool little cabinet. So this is it. And it's like a little baby, it looks like a 412, but it's a 212. And maybe you can even see, if the reflection was just right, I guess maybe not, but the speakers are like this, so you've got, basically a greenback up here and a V30 down here. And you can see the depth of the cab, and it's nice and deep. And this little cab sounds humongous, man. It sounds great. And we listened to, I've got photos I'll put up one of these days pretty soon here, but we listened to Creamback H's, Creamback M's, blends of those, Greenbacks, V30s, maybe some other stuff. And we just settled on the Greenback, and the V30 was the blend for this particular cabinet that seemed to be the best sound. And this is a great cabinet for any, it's so, I don't know, it's just really manageable, It's not super light, but it's like, it's also not huge. So you could use the amp, no problem, with like a 112. It'll sit perfectly on the Sir 112 because it's the same size as a Badger. So there's nothing wrong with getting one with a, existing 112 you might have, or using it with a Sir 112. It'll look terrific sitting on top of, there's one back there in the corner, actually, that little 112 back there. It's exact same size head as that Badger. So, the head shell. So it'll work perfect with, I would probably use like anything. It's a 15-watt amp, so you can get away with a Greenback, V30, whatever you prefer. But the 212 is really special. It sounds great with the amp. Anyway, so what I want to do is make some videos where I'm miking the amp, miking the cabinet and stuff like that, and maybe getting some room mics going. So I'll probably just do it in here, but put up some room mics so you can get a sense of what it sounds like in a room, moving a little bit of air and stuff like that, and across the whole gain range of the amplifier. So that'll be coming soon. Servando Flores is up in the top chat, and he says, hey, Pete, do you have any recommendations for an amp head under 2K with nice cleans, a good Marshall type crunch, and can also do higher gain things? Under 2K, let me think. Nice cleans, a good Marshall crunch, and can do higher gain things. Probably Dave's runts, under 2K are a great place to look. The runt and definitely nice, clean, good Marshall type crunch and higher gain. I think that's what I would recommend. Dave Friedman's, the run tamps. Mine's not too far off though. PT15's at $26.99. But yeah, if you want a little bit less expensive than that, it would probably be the number one I would recommend. Do I have an opinion on Bogner's Helios amps? I heard Luke play through them at the Baked Potato and sounded great. He sounds great through anything, but they would probably be the one that I would like the most out of the Bogners. I love Reinhold. He's great. And, I love his pedals. I've got one on my board. I'm not really a huge, it's just the voice of the amps, the Shiva and the Ecstasy. I had an Ecstasy for a while. It's just not really my thing, the extra low mids and the kind of less presency top end. So the Helios is a little more my speed because it's a little more, the kind of raw Marshall-y thing. So, yeah. Okay. I'm going to run pretty soon. It's 8:50. I'll go another 10 minutes and I'm going to split. Am I a fan of XTC? I used to listen to a lot of XTC in the, that's from Liam, in the, I guess the mid 90s, Skylarking. And, I loved a lot of those songs, Mirror Simpleton and all that. They were great. Really high level. Well, a friend described it to me that they were kind of like, obviously Beatles influenced and stuff, but, it's one thing to be Beatles influenced and write songs that were kind of like sounded Beatley, but it's another thing to be XTC and giving back that much, taking it and to almost to, I don't want to say a whole nother level, but XTC, really incredible band. Kind of like underrated band that not a lot of people talk about anymore. What the hell's up with that? I guess it's just been that long that, but they were so good. What are they doing now? If anything, what are the individual members doing? I don't know. I haven't heard. I haven't thought about them in a long time. What do I think about Tom Waits? Incredible. Awesome. I loved him in Shortcuts. Is that the movie he was in? He was great in that with Lily Tomlin. Got to get out of Downey. Yeah, that was good. I remember seeing him in Pasadena one time. He looked great. He was like walking down the street and he was with some girl and he just looked happy. He was like, shit, that's Tom Waits. That's cool. He's unique and, a really interesting artist, really interesting. What's that song? What is he doing in there? And I love all that stuff. I don't know. Anybody does anything different, I'm into. That does it on a high level. Met Phil X at a bar in Germany during Music Messe after a Berkeley alumni event. He invited me and a buddy to his acoustic show and hang out with him before the show. Literally the nicest guy ever. Phil's great, man. He worked really, really, really hard for a long time before maybe ever getting, he climbed the ladder. I remember him. He came to LA a little after I did, I think, but he was, like me, he's a Canadian kid that came down and he had a band called Powder. I remember with his wife singing, and we used to gig with him sometimes when I was in a band called Snapdragon. And I remember them, they were great, and he had this crazy hair. And I remember the drummer used to wear light bulbs and stuff and light up when he played. And she was they were sort of like almost like a rock missing persons kind of trip. Like more rock with Phil's edge in there, and it was cool. And he just worked his ass off for years and stayed in the game until he, just does what he does. Great. I really like Phil. He's a good pal actually. Now I really appreciate him a lot. What do I think of those Class D amps like Quilter Labs, Tone Block? I just don't have enough experience with them, honestly. What do you guys think of them? Tell me what you think. I haven't tried the Quilter stuff. I don't know. I should give it a listen one of these days. What else we got here? Just take a couple more questions, then I'm gonna split, and I'm gonna go to the grocery store and go home and make myself a sandwich. You didn't break your back lifting it. No, the cab's not heavy. You're talking about the cab. It's not that heavy, really. It's not incredibly light, but it's not heavy either. It's completely manageable. Okay, I'm going to go to the end here and just take the last few questions. Thoughts on Stephen Carpenter adding another string onto his repertoire? Curious to see how they mix a 9-string into their music. I don't know. Honestly, I don't. Macon is up in the top chat. Sorry, I'm going to grab that. He says, Pete, thanks for the answer. Sorry about saying the audio quality. I think it's because the voice is a little far in the way or sounds a little like cell phone audio, but I loved it anyways. Well, there'll be more demos of the. Don't worry, there's lots of demos of the amp coming soon, definitely. The first thing I want to do is really do like a wide-ranging demo of the clean channel and everything it's capable of doing all the way across the gain range, and then I want to do the similar on the distortion side, and I want to mic as well as do the the IR so that you guys can hear the sound. There's been a lot of attention placed on the fact that the thing has the load in it and the IR capability, and rightly so. And I mean, it's mostly my fault or whatever, because I've been actually recording with it mainly that way. But you can mic it and get an amazing sound too. It's an amplifier, a great sounding 15-watt amplifier. So I want to show that off too, because at the core of it, it's a killer amp. Let's see. Pete, will you say Liverpool to win the Premiership title and make my night? Liverpool. I didn't do it. Liverpool. Didn't do it with a lot of gusto, did I? Sorry. Phil X can really sing too. Yeah, you're right. He actually can. See, that's another thing. When your guitar playing is that good, then it overshadows your singing. He's just another case of that. Joaquin says, which cheap overdrive pedal would you recommend for a warm bluesy tone? I have a Marshall Valve State. You know what's a good one is check out the video I did of the Dan Electro one a while ago. I can't remember the name of it for the life of me, but just look up Pete Thorn Dan Electro and you'll find the one. They've got a nice overdrive pedal one of you guys will know the one that I did, but it's a great overdrive pedal. I know it's quite inexpensive, so check that out. Beyond that, what's that? The Monkey, the one from Digitech, that's kind of a classic one. The Monkey something or other. I don't know. They were $29 like back in the day, and it was basically a tube screamer. That'd be a good one. A used Boss Blues driver. Can't go wrong with that. Yeah. I've been gone 2 hours, says Vibro Steve. How many ciders? Only one, man. I'd be falling asleep otherwise, because Bad Monkey, that's the pedal. The Nobles is another one, yeah. The Texas Billionaire, maybe that's the one. The Dan Electro. Anyway, bunch in the end of the chat there. Look at all those different pedal ideas. Maybe it was the Big Spender. I did videos for the Texas Billionaire. Isn't that more of a? I thought that was a distortion. I can't remember. Watch the videos. You'll hear. There was one overdrive that I thought sounded great. That was, sounded kind of clowny or something. It was cool. Joyo Vintage Overdrive TS808 clone for $20. There you go. There's another recommendation. Have you seen the Behringer videos JHS put out? It's interesting, right? That Botiki pedal company made a video of cheap pedals. Ballsy. Can you please compare an SLO 100 to a B100? That'd be a cool video. High gain showdown. Debating both either. Upgrading from a BE. I don't know if we don't want to call it an upgrade because it's just different at that level, right? Talking about too high end, But some people might consider it an upgrade, but other people might consider the BE the upgrade over the SLO. It just depends what you like, Pete, my shirt question, sing by you. What do I have to do to get one? Macon. Huh? Sorry, dude, I don't understand. Anybody else at the end here? Checking out Black Hole Sun inside the song with Michael Beinhardt. Yeah, that was a pretty cool video. I quite enjoyed that. What can you do to get a shirt signed by me? I see. You know what? I don't have any way to do that right now. Other than, I don't really have a way to do it, because if you get my shirts right now, I've got a Teespring store, and the shirts are made to order. So when you order a shirt, Pete Thorn shirt off Teespring, they literally print it and send it to you. So I don't come into contact with it. But if I ever met you, I would be glad to sign your shirt. I would. I'd be more than happy to do it. Sorry, I didn't understand what you meant. Apologies. It's late and I'm tired. You can probably see it in my face. Yeah, I'm thinking I'm going to go get some dinner because I just realized I haven't eaten a damn thing all day. I'm a little whacked out. I flew back on a red eye last night from Hawaii. So got here at 5 a.m. and then went to sleep for 4 hours. And now I'm still here. Sorry. All right, guys. So I'm going to split. It's 8:59. We've gone 2 hours. You guys rule. And thanks for being here. I'll do it at the regular time next Sunday. Sunday at 11, but fashionably late, 11:15 or so, 11:20. By then, I should have done a video for this Dark Sun pedal from Seymour Duncan. We can talk about that, as well as probably the Architect here from Matthews Effects. And maybe this week, if I have some time, I'll get into starting to do this Vox Amps in the Zone video. I want to know some cool. You could send them to my Facebook page if you think of them. Send me a email message or whatever they're called there on my Facebook music page. But cool AC30 riffs that you would have me play on the the Amps in the Zone video. I'll come up with a bunch. I'll probably look for some from the Edge to Brian May to Beatles and different stuff that was done at AC30. Maybe I'll try and figure out what was done by Richie Blackmore with one, because he used to use one to record a lot. Rory and all that good stuff. But all right, you guys, thanks for being here. I really appreciate it. Have a great rest of your Monday evening and a great rest of your week. I'll see you Sunday. Take care.